Lesson 20.2, Task 1, Surveys, Experiments, and Observational Studies. Recognize different forms of statistical research. Statistical research takes various forms depending on whether the purpose of the research is to measure a variable in a population, to see if there is an association between two variables, or to determine whether one variable actually influences another variable. Types of statistical research. A survey is a data collection tool that uses questions to measure characteristics of interest about a population using a sample selected from the population. An observational study uses observation to determine whether an existing condition called a factor in a population is related to a characteristic of interest. The subjects of the study and their environments are not controlled in any way. And the third one, an experiment, is an activity in which researchers manipulate one variable by imposing a treatment on some of the subjects of the experiment in order to determine if the treatment has an effect on another variable. Consider the three research studies described. Study 1. A researcher divides a group of subjects into two groups. She gives one group fish oil capsules daily. She gives the other group capsules containing water. She measures the cholesterol levels of both groups over the next several months to determine if fish oil lowers cholesterol. Study 2. A researcher asks a random sample of people living in the United States whether they take fish oil supplements daily. And Study 3, a researcher gathers information from different countries about each country's average annual per capita fish consumption and its residents' incidence of stroke in order to determine if greater fish consumption is associated with lower risk of stroke. All right, so it says match each study to the correct type. So we've got a survey, an observational study, and an experiment. So if we look at number 1, a researcher divides a group into two groups, and she gives one group fish oil and she gives the other one water, or a placebo, sometimes it's called. So that's going to be considered an experiment. All right, study 2, a research asks random people. Okay, so that's a survey when you ask random people to answer questions. And then study 3, a researcher gathers information from different countries about each country's annual per capita fish consumption and its residents' incidence of stroke in order to determine if greater fish consumption is associated with lower risk of stroke. So they are observing data. They're looking at data only. They're not doing anything to change what they are given. All right, says for the survey study, what is the characteristic of interest surveyed? Okay, so the survey was study 2. A researcher asked a random sample of people living in the United States whether they take fish oil daily. All right, so whether fish oil supplements are taken daily. So that should be the correct answer. Whether fish oil are effective, okay, so it didn't do any of those. They just asked them if they took fish oil or not. All right, so it says, what are the factor and the characteristic of interest for the observational study? So the observational study, remember, is observe only. The observational study was study 3. So they gathered information from different countries about the per capita fish consumption and the incidence of stroke. So the factor is fish consumption. And the characteristic of interest is, is there an incident of stroke? Is there an effect here? All right, and the last one, what are the treatment and the characteristic of interest for the experimental study? If we go back to the experimental study, that is study 1. A researcher divides a group of subjects into 2 groups. She gives one fish oil capsules and the other one water. She measures the cholesterol levels of both groups to see if one lowers the cholesterol. All right, so the treatment is the fish oil capsules. And the characteristic of interest is, does it change the cholesterol level? All right, so that's just looking at the 3 different types of statistical research: a survey, an observational study, and an experiment. That's all for task 1. If you have any questions, let me know. Lesson 20.2, task 2. Detect errors in surveys. Random sampling is the best way to ensure a representative sample. However, a survey's results can have errors. The table gives several sources of errors. Errors in a survey. Biased questions is the first one. The wording of questions in a survey can influence the way people respond to them. Survey questions need to be worded in a neutral, unbiased way. Interviewer effect. If an interviewer asks the question in a survey, the person being interviewed may give inaccurate responses to avoid being embarrassed. Non-response. Some people may be difficult to contact, or they may simply refuse to participate once contacted. If non-response rates are higher for certain subgroups of a population, then those subgroups will be underrepresented in the survey results. All right, consider the following survey. So we have a wolf pack. It says, Survey 1, a survey of a random sample of residents of a state asked, do you think the state should spend more money maintaining a refuge of wolves when other more important priorities are underfunded? All right, so the first thing I see in this is, if they want to be unbiased, ask the question without bringing anything else into it. So, do you think the state should spend money maintaining a refuge for wolves? Question mark. That's it. When you say when other more important priorities are underfunded, that is making you think about something besides what the question asks. So that would be bias. The owner of a business meets individually with a random sample of employees in order to determine how satisfied they are with their job. All right, he meets individually, so a person may be reluctant to tell their boss how satisfied they are with their job. So I don't think this would be a good way to find out. They may need to do an anonymous survey or something to where they can speak freely without feeling like their job is in jeopardy or whatever. All right, so it says in Survey 1, the question is biased because it implies that maintaining the wolf refuge is less important than other projects the state could fund, which is an option and not a fact. A better question is simply, do you think the state should spend more money maintaining a refuge for wolves? Again, don't bring anything else into the picture. Just ask the question and let people come up with their own conclusion. All right, in Survey 2, the survey will likely suffer from the interviewer effect because employers may not be completely open about their job dissatisfaction. A better survey would involve a neutral interviewer or anonymous responses. All right, A part says, for Survey 2, complete the statements to compare the advantages and disadvantages of using an online anonymous survey to measure employee job satisfaction. All right, so for this one, an advantage is that the employees may be more likely to respond truthfully if their responses are anonymous. A disadvantage is that the sample will be self-selected, because you would choose to do it or not, rather than a random sample. So and so may not be representative of the entire population of employees. All right, so it says, which question for the anonymous survey in employees' job satisfaction is worded in a way most likely to obtain an unbiased result? All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being extremely concerned and 10 being extremely unconcerned, how concerned are you with your job satisfaction? All right, so that one does talk about job satisfaction, and this talks about being concerned and unconcerned. So on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being extremely unhappy and 10 being extremely happy, how happy are you with your job? All right, so it's just changing the words here from concerned to happy and unhappy. And on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being extremely dissatisfied and 10 being extremely satisfied, how satisfied are you with your job? Up here it's talking about job satisfaction. So right now I'm leaning towards dissatisfied and satisfied here. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being extremely dissatisfied and 10 being extremely satisfied, how satisfied are you with working for this excellent company? All right, so the fact that they're saying this excellent company, like they're trying to lean you towards one way or the other. So the best answer there is choice C. All right, that's all for task 2. If you have any questions, let me know.